3 years. That's all it took. 3 years after AI went mainstream, it found its way into warfare and mass surveillance. This is the story of how that happened and what it means for all of us. The Wall Street Journal confirmed it. The Pentagon used Anthropic's AI model, Claude, as part of its operation to capture Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. It was the first acknowledged use of AI by U.S. forces in a live military operation. But that was just the beginning. Weeks later, when the U.S. launched strikes against Iran, an AI called the Maven Smart System, built by Palantir and powered by Anthropic's Claude, identified and prioritized over 1,000 targets in a single 24-hour period. So what exactly is this Maven system? And why is military AI so much more powerful than the ChatGPT we use every day? The answer comes down to two things: hardware and data. As Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei confirmed, they were the first company to build custom AI models specifically for national security. These models don't run on shared cloud servers. They run on entire dedicated data centers, sometimes one data center per single request. The result? Military AI can be 5 to 6 orders of magnitude more powerful per request than what civilians use. That's not a 5x improvement, that's up to 1,000,000 times more compute per query. Maven pulls data from 179 separate intelligence sources. Satellites, traffic cameras, including Iranian traffic cameras hacked by Israeli intelligence, surveillance feeds, financial records, signals, intelligence. Claude then processes all of it and outputs precise targeting coordinates ranked by priority in real time. The efficiency gains are staggering. A Georgetown University study found that with the Maven Claude system, a single artillery unit of 20 people could perform the intelligence work that previously required 2,000 analysts. That's a 99% reduction in workforce and a compression of weeks of battle planning into hours. But here's where the story gets complicated, and where a rare thing happened in Silicon Valley. An AI company said no to the military. In July 2025, Anthropic signed a $200 million contract with the Pentagon through Palantir. But as the partnership deepened, the government started demanding more. They wanted Claude available for, quote, all lawful purposes with no private sector restrictions. Remember, under the Patriot Act, mass domestic surveillance of U.S. citizens is lawful. The government specifically wanted to use Claude to analyze data purchased from private data brokers, geolocation history, web browsing data, and personal financial records on American citizens in real time, at scale, without warrants. Anthropic drew two hard lines. 1, no mass surveillance of U.S. citizens. 2, no fully autonomous weapons making lethal decisions without a human in the loop. On February 24th, 2026, the Pentagon gave them an ultimatum: comply by 5 p.m. Friday or face consequences. Dario Amodei refused. On February 26th, he stated, "We cannot, in good conscience, acquiesce." The government's response was swift and unprecedented. They labeled Anthropic, a $380 billion American company, a supply chain risk, a designation that had never before been applied to an American company. Then, within hours, not days, hours, something astonishing happened. Sam Altman announced that OpenAI would step in and take the deal that Anthropic had just rejected. He himself called it sloppy and rushed. Over 450 verified Google and OpenAI employees signed an open letter calling on their own leadership to stand down. OpenAI claims their deal includes the same 2 safeguards Anthropic fought for, But the negotiations lasted only 2 days. The New York Times and CNN both noted it's not clear what, if anything, is actually different. A former Pentagon official put it bluntly, "I don't believe that provision is in the contract." The public backlash was immediate and massive. The Quit GPT movement emerged within 48 hours. 2.5 million people pledged to cancel, delete, or boycott OpenAI. A single Instagram post hit 36 million views. Daily ChatGPT uninstalls spiked 295% above average. And for the first time ever, Claude overtook ChatGPT as the #1 AI app on the US App Store. The surveillance angle of this story deserves its own deep dive, because the government's plan to spy on Americans using AI doesn't require any new law to be broken. It exploits a loophole that existed long before AI made it dangerous. Here's how it works. Private companies, apps, ad networks, social platforms collect your location, browsing, and financial data constantly. They sell it to data brokers. Data brokers sell it to the government. And the government never needed a warrant because they bought it commercially. The Fourth Amendment doesn't cover commercially purchased data. The scale of this is already staggering. Over 100 million Americans are tracked by location data brokers without their knowledge. A 2024 Wired investigation found that more than 3 billion phone location coordinates tracking U.S. military and intelligence personnel had been sold by data brokers openly, legally. And it's already spreading beyond America. In Australia, Palantir has installed surveillance systems inside Coles supermarkets. As AI improves, it's not hard to imagine those systems identifying, profiling, and tracking every shopper, then rolling out to every camera in public space. NATO has already signed its own contract with Palantir for its own Maven equivalent. And then there's what's coming to your face. Meta's Ray-Ban smart glasses. Over 7 million pairs were sold in 2025 alone. Inside Meta, there's a feature under development called Name Tag. Here's what Name Tag does. You look at a stranger on the street. Meta's AI cross-references their face against 15 years of Instagram and Facebook photos. And in seconds, you get their name, profile, and personal data without them ever knowing. This isn't speculation. In 2024, 2 Harvard students already proved it works, using only third-party software and a standard pair of Ray-Ban glasses. They identified complete strangers on the street in real time. Meta paid $1.4 billion to settle a Texas lawsuit for illegally scanning faces without consent. Then, they brought it back, officially this time. And here's the detail that should concern you most. An internal Meta planning document, obtained by the New York Times in February 2026, stated, "The current political environment is good timing to launch Name Tag because civil society groups that would oppose it have their attention focused on other concerns." So step back and look at the full picture. In 2022, AI couldn't write a coherent paragraph. By 2026, it's identifying military targets in real time, building profiles on citizens without warrants, and recognizing faces in a crowd without anyone's consent. 3 years. The technology itself isn't the enemy. In your hands, AI can make you dramatically more productive. But the pattern we're watching, military contracts prioritized over ethics, surveillance infrastructure normalized before laws can catch up, facial recognition rolled out while attention is elsewhere, that pattern demands our attention. There are 2 concrete things you can do right now. First, get yourself off data broker databases. There are services and guides online. Google it. If you're not in the broker network, you're a harder target. Second, This story needs to spread. The gap between what's being built and what the public knows is exactly the kind of gap that allows this to accelerate unchallenged. AI was supposed to cure cancer, help scientists, make everyday life easier. Instead, it speedruns its way straight into warfare and mass surveillance. The question now isn't whether this is happening, it's whether we're paying attention. I hope this video helped. Share it if you think others should know.